run it twice yesterday. It was kind of weird. I wasn't on the right page here, but I bet it's going to work because, yep, we are live. There we go. It's your old pal Emac joined by one Nolan Kelly. It's the revolving cast of characters here on Live Before Lock, single game slate style, brought to you by the one and only Fantasydraft. So we have actually what should be a decent game tonight because both teams are so bad. Bad, that if you have two bad defenses and two mediocre at best offenses, doesn't that mean the offenses are going to do something, Nolan?
I'm in agreement with you there, Emac. Yeah, I'm all about these passing offenses tonight. I think if you look at the strengths and weaknesses of each of these defenses, it tends to gravitate towards them being pretty porous against the pass. So I like both sides of this game. I like both offenses. The total is only 45, which is about a middling total. So I'm maybe a little bit overconfident, but I like where your head's at there. Two bad teams, two winless teams. Kind of a must-win game for either one, but let's face it, neither one of these teams is going anywhere this year.
What happens if there's a tie tonight? Oh, wait. What about an overtime tie?
I could see that. That seems apropos for these two teams in a AFC North battle, who they usually play each other pretty tight. So,
all right. So kick it off. Lead the way here. I'm getting the tweet ready. But before I do, I want to talk about the old fantasy draft. Shout out to one Ship My Money who took home $100,000 yesterday. Literally shipped the money. He got first place on fantasy draft. He had to sweat out the final game, as they say. Excuse me, but nobody even came close, and it was a dud of a game. Perfect for him, so he is very, very happy with that. Did you follow along at all, Nolan?
I wasn't following along. I didn't know he was in it until I saw the tweet afterwards. So, yeah, good for him, man. It's the second time he's taken down six figures. I don't know why he's not in this seat instead of me, but maybe we'll talk to him about that. But he's winning all the money. So, good day for the Osmo brand as well, because Alex Osmo Baker finished third in that tournament as well, taking home $30,000. Is that you over there? Are you playing some heavy metal?
No, I don't believe so.
I have no idea what that was.
Were you hearing music?
Yeah.
No, not me. Coughing, sniffing, yes, because I'm dealing with a cold. But
man, it's going around.
Very odd. Well, we'll move.
So big day of our fantasy draft. If you're not playing over there, you probably should be. There's oftentimes there's overlay. There's no rake. You're going to go into a spiel. I'm sure you know what's up. So, great day for everyone involved over there.
Yeah, I had a nice early slate, and then more or less broke even on the late slate. So I won a few $100, so that was nice. But I played well outside my comfort zone because I was not able to play last week. So I played. Usually I play about $500 or $600, but I was like up to about 1,400. I went back and counted all of the different sites I was playing on. So I was very happy to win, and we'll just move along. And the wife doesn't need to know how much I actually had out there.
The thing is, like, it's never that much, right? You're not going to lose it all if you have a bad week. So you just got to make sure that the wife knows that, right?
We don't talk about it. The good thing is I don't ever have to deposit. So I usually deposit about once or twice a year, and I withdraw about 2 or 3 times a year. And that way I can kind of see how much I have. I know how much is in there. And then I've been lucky enough that I haven't really had to redeposit.
The only conversation you need to have with her is when you take down that big one, right?
Exactly. But on Fantasy Draft, I did deposit over there, Nolan. Now, rake free, they do something a little different. They're going to ask you to pay the deposit fee. You're going to have to pay 3% if you come in on a credit card or on PayPal. Now, that's it. Then you have your little subscription. So I'm signed up now for a subscription for one. I can play $1,000 for the month, and it's $5.99. So I put my $200 in. So that cost me about $7, and I just paid my $13 total because I paid $6 for that 1 month. In the time that I have been playing, I have saved $37.28 in rake. So which is better, paying the $13? Or not having to pay a deposit fee going into another site, but paying rake of $37 on that same amount played?
Well, I think it sounds like the lesser rake's the option there. Yeah, it ends up working out to about less than half of the rake of these other sites, so it's a no brainer for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not even that. So take advantage of this while it's going on, and they're getting people used to this. But I'm still seeing people complain. Oh, they just charged me to deposit there. I'm not going to play there. Dude, you get charged 16% every time you play a game on Draftkings or Fanduel. Okay, that they're getting theirs. Don't worry, they're getting
Yeah.
theirs.
Don't
But
don't don't you worry about DraftKings. They're going to get theirs. But.
yeah, don't worry about that. But in any event, there we go. Got the tweet out, so we're all good here. So here's my stand of the game.
Yeah,
I'm
lay it on me.
going with the red rifle. I'm going with
Nice.
Andy Dalton. Andy
Yep.
Dalton is anchoring what I am calling. I know we like to talk about cash games. He is my captain,
Hmm.
and I do not have James Conner on those teams. So I'm seeing a lot of people talking about James Conner, and he should be your cash game captain, etc. Have you looked at his season total stats so far?
Yeah, not so good so far, right? Not so good.
97 yards rushing. That's
Hmm.
not for a game. That's for the first three games. And
Yeah.
I forget, like, what was it, about 60 or 70 yards passing. So he's got about 170 yards. So it's not the worst, but that's not that great. Now he's going against a bottom five team for DVOA. And while we like to look at that metric because it neutralizes some things out there, and Football Outsiders puts a lot into it, going into yesterday afternoon, the Los Angeles Rams had the sixth best DVOA, and they got
Mhm.
55 points hung on them. Okay, they try to neutralize what they can. We only have a small sample size, and I know they take into account some preseason stuff, and they also look at a few other things. But this is one of those where I don't know that I really want to hang my hat on these numbers as being the end all be all, because I mean, weird stuff happens. This NFL every year has gotten more and more variant than what it did in the beginning, and the reason we're seeing that is because it's all coming down to the passing game now, and scores can really go crazy or they cannot happen. It's like teams in the NFL chucking up the three pointers. They either hit them or they don't, and that's two very disparate outcomes. So what we're seeing here is some crazy outcomes. I mean, Goff had what 500 yards passing and they lost by more than two scores. That's pretty crazy, but just interesting stuff. So tonight, I'm all about the passing game here. Is Joe
Yeah.
Mixon a good running back? You betcha. Do I think James Conner is? Oh yeah, he did one hell of a Le'Veon Bell impersonation last year. Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith. Only one of those guys is still playing on the field with him. That's a problem.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like what you said there about sample size as well. So I think one of the reasons that James Conner hasn't been very good, he's averaged 3.3, 3.3, and 2.1 yards per carry in his three games this year. Part of that is just because the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line hasn't been very good this year. They're ranked 18th in run blocking. They were ranked second in the NFL in PFS run blocking grade. Now, one of the reasons for that I've seen is that Mike Munchak is gone. He's offensive line coach for the Denver Broncos now. He was the offensive line coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers for years. He's considered one of the better offensive line coaches in the league. That could be the reason for their lack of success this year. We've seen that happen with other coaching changes in the past where we see great or great improvements just based on not based on personnel changes like the Rams when they hired McVay, just based on the fact that they were changing scheme and coaching staff. So that could be the reason for the Steelers' lack of production in the run blocking game, or it could simply be what you said there, a very small sample size to start the season.
Yeah. One other thing people are going to see a lot of is that Mason Rudolph is projecting out not only on Osmo but on some of the other sites, both DFS content sites and season-long sites, which have the same scoring as DFS in most cases these days with PPR. Mason Rudolph projected inside of the top 20 this week for quarterbacks. Now, we only had two teams on the bye. That's extremely higher than I thought. On the other hand, Anthony Dalton was kind of down a little bit below that. He was in the 22 to 25 range. But I had looked up Dalton first, and I thought, well, if Dalton's where he is, Rudolph's definitely going to be below him. And he certainly wasn't on the 6 or 7 sites I looked at. So that was kind of a surprise to me. So I want to be careful with that because I'm not one that wants to play a lot of Mason Rudolph tonight. And then we also have the Monday night into Thursday night games. So I know some people are playing that. So just reminding everybody, it's Seattle hosting the Rams, and Rashard Penny should be back. No, it is Rashad Penny. He should be back for that one. They've already said. So just throwing that out there. But I'm actively making sure that I'm not going to be overweight on Mr. Mason Rudolph here in those contests. And because he is a quarterback, I still have a fair amount of him in my single game contest, but he's on less than half of my lineups.
Yeah, I think that's fair. These quarterbacks do correlate pretty well together. We have both quarterbacks as pretty good values tonight on Awesemo's grades as well. Awesemo's top showdown in single plays for DraftKings and Fanduel, where he goes over the captain ownership relative to their chance of becoming the top scoring player on the slate. We have Mason Rudolph predicted for the most captain ownership, which I think people are targeting probably based off of his lower price compared to some of these other top options. So, yeah, he's not a great bargain when you factor in the ownership, but he does carry some value with him at his current price point.
There we go. Oh, Chad says you're wearing an Expos hat. Are you?
You know it.
There we go. Hey,
gotta support those Spos, man.
Well, here you can't see me because I don't have the camera turned on for you. But now I'm wearing my Washington Nationals hat, so we're bookending.
Oh, God. Let's go together.
Come on, we can all get behind one of two teams that has never made a World Series.
Man, oh man, I'm still choked about 1994.
94, I believe, the strike shortened season. Yep, you know it. You know it. Those had some good teams, but and I got a soft spot because that's where Randy Johnson came from. So,
absolutely.
But back to our tasks at hand here. I am going with, where did I end up? I've got about 240 entries, and I'm running 100 and I think it ended up being 150 lineups. I've entered these in a variety of leagues: 3-mans, triple ups, 5-mans, and some of the smaller contests. I don't have very much in. I've got 2 or 3 in the big giant field contests for $1 or $2 because I think those are losing propositions. And someone had asked me, slightly, I answered them slightly tongue-in-cheek on Twitter today, but they had said, what I'm running 5 lineups. What's your game-winning strategy? And one, it's well, pick the best players. Wink, nod. We don't know who they're going to be tonight until they actually play the games. And 2, be ready to kiss that money goodbye, because you just need to think of that as entertainment money, and it's money that is gone. It is not coming back. If it comes back, you should be happy, and that makes for a fun night. If it doesn't come back, don't beat yourself up over it, because, hey, this stuff is hard, and we're trying to guess something with just a handful of games.
Yep, that's true.
All right, there we go. I like where these are. I'm going to upload these lineups. So let's hit this a little quick. We got 30 minutes. Let's kind of go a little from the top, each team by position here. So quarterback Andy Dalton, I kind of hinted that at the fact that he was kind of in that 20 to 25 range. I like that for perspective. Now, he is one of 2 quarterbacks that is in this game tonight, so it's not, we have a lot of choices, but for me, he's my number 1. It's the Steelers have a bottom 3 DVOA against the pass, and I actually said that seemed generous. How can I say, if they only have 3 teams worse than them, that their ranking seems generous? They've been that bad. They're allowing 306 yards per game, which is a lot. They've given up 7 touchdowns, not really getting a ton of sacks or turnovers, so they haven't really been that great. Is Andy Dalton exciting? No, but he is a competent quarterback. We do have a healthy John Ross III from the University of Washington. Go Huskies. And then we have Boyd, who is also a solid kind of possession guy. So you got the guy that's going to take the lid off. You got the guy underneath. And then you've got one of the tight ends, Zoma, who is more of a blocking guy, and then you got Eifert. If Eifert's in the game, he's probably running a route. Doesn't mean the ball's going to go to him, but he doesn't block very much anymore just because he gets hurt constantly. You need those guys to kind of fall into the end zone, is sort of what the theory has been around, or the phrase that's been bandied about throughout the league, or throughout the interwebs today. And I completely agree with it. JJ Zachariason did the dad runner comment, which means the guy out there's running like your dad. Yep, that's kind of what Eifert looks like now. Jason Witten, the original dad runner, has had some moments thus far this year, but there's really not much excitement going on in those tight ends, and then you've got the running back. So I think both are fine. They're missing a couple of their key offensive linemen that got hurt before the season started, and it's really showing. So you've got Mixon, who's solid, but does he really get that much more than what's blocked for him? Not particularly. And then you've got Giovanni Bernard, who's nice in space and can catch the ball, and he's actually would be a starting running back on a bunch of the teams, but he's so far down the pecking order right now that he's just not getting any volume. So that's got me basically with the trio of Dalton, Ross, and Boyd. By the way, those are my three highest ranked point per dollar players in my estimation tonight. And where I would not only point per dollar, but factoring in popularity as well. So it's not straight point per dollar, but it's saying I can't just rank you guys raw points. What's the point in that? We can all look at raw point lists. So I tried to build lineups both on Draftkings and Fanduel and figure out where I'm going to land. And those are my three top guys tonight. I can't remember being that strong on a team that's been this weak of an offense. But I'm absolutely comfortable with those three, Nolan. You want to be the cold bucket of reality on that?
No, I totally agree with you. I think that both one of the appealing things about stacking this offense tonight is just how centralized it is as well. You have Tyler Boyd coming in with 30 targets thus far, John Ross coming in with 25 targets, and then you have to dip all the way down to Auden Tate with 11 targets. All three of those guys last week got at least 90% of the offensive snaps. It looks like Auden Tate has taken over that third receiver role from Damian Willis, who started the season there. So essentially what you have is a very concentrated stacking possibilities for GPPs, and that means less options. That means things can go wrong a lot less. You mentioned the tight ends there a little bit. Uzoma and Eifert both splitting snaps. Uzoma has been running less routes recently. His routes have been trending down. I think he only ran 9 last week, whereas Eifert's routes are about pretty standard. I think he's gone like 25, 12, and 26 over the first 3 weeks. So he's the safer play. But of course, when you factor in price, Uzoma is probably the better punt option. $1,400 on DraftKings and $5,000 bare min on FanDuel as well. But all of those reasons and the stackable concentrated offense are why I like attacking Cincinnati tonight. And then we'll see some appealing captain options on the other side of this game that I think both of us are going to like. So stacking those three together as non-captains is a great option too.
All right. I think that's about all we really need to hit on there for Cincinnati. Again, you said the perfect word, concentrated. That's sort of where everything is. I'm not getting a lot of the defenses tonight. I am getting kickers. I did go with my main lineup. It's a 2-kicker build. I usually don't do that either, but no running backs, 1 quarterback, 2 kickers, and you can guess who the other 2 players are or 3 players are based upon what I've said. So it's a very unique situation tonight, and I've gotten more out of the box with kind of my thinking on playing these showdown slates and willing to just plant my flag and say, all right, here's how it's going to be. And again, it could go sideways. Last night was mediocre. I lost 20% of what I put out, so I got 80% back. Thursday night, week 1, I lost it all, 100%. Week 2, I had like a 7x night. Okay, that was great. I literally had the best. I was 0.2 off of having the best lineup. So the results have been all over the board. So I'm trying to play a more set amount of money, but like tonight, I wanted to enter a bunch because there was no MLB. We need hockey to get here real quick, Nolan, so I have some other distraction. But I'm trying to keep this all a similar amount because Jake and I have been talking about this a little bit on how do you crack the nut that is the showdown games. And I think you have to be disciplined and just be willing to look at it as you probably should play 2 or 3 of them, of the 3 games, and then now you've got a 50 slate sample size, approximately. You don't have to play everyone to get there, but that's about where it lays out. That's a little more realistic. I've seen even myself. I've been on already. Through playing 10 of these slates, I've been an idiot and I've been king of the world and I've been all over in between. It's very random. It's not like baseball or hockey where you get another slate the next day, another slate the next day, another slate the next day. So you don't really live and die by these swings. You're like even tonight, it's like it felt like forever since the Sunday night football game's gotten over. Well, that's not even 24 hours ago, and it was a horrible game. Pittsburgh. Yep. I can't say anything good about Mason Rudolph. Can you? He was awesome at Oklahoma State. There we go.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's a little bit early. His completion percentage has been pretty weak. His accuracy hasn't been there yet. He does have a little bit of rushing upside, I guess. I don't know. 2 touchdowns in each of his passing games, under 200 yards. I think this will be a good test for him because he was thrown into the fire in week 2 against Seattle. I think he came in halfway through. Is that right? Or am I just?
Yeah, it was about halfway.
Yeah. And then another tough matchup against the 49ers and their improved defense in week 2, traveling across the continent. So I think this will be telling generally about how he's going to play. The thing is, his price point is pretty solid. And if you're attacking the passing games in this matchup tonight, then you're going to want to have some Rudolph shares. So I got no problem going to him. I'm probably a little bit higher on him than you are, especially if you're going to pop a Juju Smith-Schuster or maybe a James Washington in your captain spot. You're going to want to pair him up with Mason Rudolph.
Yep. Now, what I did there is I did set rules for my other lineups. Now, as I mentioned, I'm playing a bunch of other lineups here. So about a third of my cash in play is the kind of the lineup I described. And then 2/3 is where I'm mixing and matching and playing a bunch of low dollar stuff because I believe particularly in this situation, you want to be in as many different lineups with as many different outcomes as you can. And that's just something where it feels right. It's the approach we've been taking here at Osmo. I've had fantastic success throughout the year, and I had a hell of a run here through NHL playoffs, which was almost all single game slate there towards the end. So I'm trying to apply what I learned there with my strategy, what I'm doing, and how I'm thinking about it. Not you analyze the sport entirely different, the lineups are entirely different, etc. But I'm trying to take that approach that was successful there and seeing if it will translate over here. So it's important to set rules. So whenever I have a quarterback as a captain, I will have at least 2 or 3, depending on who it was and what game it is, etc. I will have 2 or 3 receivers with him. Anytime I've got one of the key wide receivers, so in this case it would be Schuster, Ross, and then Boyd, I said you have to play their quarterback with them if they're the captains. I didn't go deeper than that just because I don't feel the need or the upside of having to do that. I wanted to see what will happen because if we start looking at, I think that Auden Tate is a really interesting play. Didn't play week 1, as you mentioned, kind of took over in week 2, but I don't think I have to have Andy Dalton with him. I mean, what's a good game from him? 3 for 50? Okay, that's not a lot for Dalton. I think Juju Smith-Schuster can have a good game without Mason Rudolph having a good game. If Rudolph were to throw for 2 touchdowns and 200 yards and 120 of those in both touchdowns went to Schuster, that's not going to carry Rudolph to a good game. It's going to be
but I think in this scenario and in these showdowns, like I would be willing to bet that Rudolph is one of the top 6 players in that scenario if he throws 2 touchdowns to Juju. So you'd want Juju in the captain spot and then Rudolph passing for 2. I mean, of course, you never know if like James Conner goes off or something like that. But I think more often than not, you're probably better stacking your quarterback. If you have a wide receiver in that captain spot, you're better off stacking your quarterback with him. I mean, there's those rare scenarios where someone like Julian Edelman will just rack up 12 catches and 150 yards, and that quarterback won't be necessarily correlated all that well. But because their touchdown passes are so correlated together, I think the best option is to correlate those plays as much as possible.
And that's a good point. And this is where we kind of want to use this not just to analyze it, because you can analyze it. I mean, I just wrote almost 2,000 words about this game. You guys can get that. It's free. We're doing these one for every of the primetime Showdown matchups. So Sunday, Monday, Thursday. I'm going to drop that link in chat again. I've got in here, I've got their routes run, I've got their targets, I got their snap share, I got all that stuff in there. So this is kind of your one-stop shopping of the key details you're going to want to look at. You're still going to have to construct your lineup yourself. You're going to have to decide what script do I want to do, how do I want to handle this, etc. Now, for Nolan's standpoint, what he's saying is absolutely 100% true. You got to have the perfect correlation, and then the script play out how you want it. to win these giant top heavy, or well, win meaning share with 500 of your closest friends. I've been playing more of these smaller ones. I'll play the 200 to between the 200 and the 500 entry leagues on Draftkings. I will play 3-mans, as I said. I will play 5-mans. What I do is I just go in and look. As long as I don't recognize at least one of the names for the 3-mans, I'll jump in it for however many I want to play. And as long as I don't recognize more than 2 names in the 5-mans, I'll do the same thing. I don't care what people's badges are. There's, like, you learn this real quick in NHL and with NASCAR. Somebody that doesn't have a very high badge count doesn't mean they're a bad player. They may only like a specific sport and or format. So, plus the other thing is, if you've been around since they invented these badge concepts, damn near everybody has a higher level one. So they're kind of meaningless at this point. So just because you find somebody that doesn't have a badge doesn't mean you're going to beat them from that standpoint. But where I'm looking at is my 3% outcome will win those 10-mans. My 20% outcome will win those 3-mans more often than not, because people do some stupid stuff. Even looking at last night, there were just some lineups where I had no idea why they were making the captain choices they were in the 3-mans. Will my lineups do anything in the giant tournaments? Probably nothing more than min cash, which is 1.5 times your entry fee. So what Nolan's saying is absolutely the truth for those big top heavy field ones. Mine is the one where I'm just trying to make a little more money and not have to redeposit, because as I said, I don't have to redeposit. I don't withdraw all the time either, but I don't have to redeposit. I get my 1099s. It's great. The people I think that lose track of things are the churn people, where people are like, if you ever talk to the operations people at the sites, they'll say it's amazing. They'll have people that withdraw and deposit every single day. And it's like, guys, do you realize how much that's costing the site, that's going into rake and costing all of us? But they just have zero discipline whatsoever. And it's like, why are you doing that? Well, I wanted the money out. Well, what did you do with that money? Well, I put it back in the next day. Okay, why did you do that? It's just, I've talked to people and it's like they just have no rationale. So, but what they do is they lose track of how much money they've actually withdrawn or deposited. And they're generally losing players. So just keep that in mind. I like to be slow and steady. I once I hit a certain milestone, I do a withdrawal, and then it takes me about 6 months to get to that milestone again. Then I do a withdrawal. So slow and steady, and I know where I am at any given time. Looking at James Conner, let's hit on that one more time. Why, and I think arguably so, why is he a top play, if not the projected top play, between him and Mason Rudolph? And why am I not playing him? There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you can play him if you want to. Like he's certainly a fine play. Looking at Osimo's projections here, we have him projected for 15% captain ownership. We give him about a 12% chance of being the highest owned player. You're not going to have to correlate him as well as much. You can pair him in some unique stacks with some defense, with other options. It looks like for the most part, running backs are the captain spot in the winning lineup about 35 to 40% of the time. So far this year, we've seen wide receivers just take that over, though. It's been nothing but wide receivers thus far. Wide receivers, a couple quarterbacks, and a couple kickers, I think. So, I've got no problem with Connor. I just think, like, from my perspective, the passing defenses of these teams are a little bit weaker than their run defenses, and that's why I'm targeting that kind of game script tonight. But Connor's absolutely a fine play.
All right, throwing this out there. This is the Fantasy Draft. They have the $500,000 contest this week. Don't panic, because the site's base contests are going down a little bit. Here's why that's happening across the board: DraftKings, Fanduel, Yahoo, etc. Week 1, you've had 4 weeks from when they launched this, and I think this week most of the sites came out 6 weeks before. They came out before preseason with their pricing, which was unique. But they've got all that time to fill these contests. Now people don't have that time. Everybody's back to school. There's other competing interests, etc. People have already lost whatever money they were going to throw out there, especially when you're paying these top-heavy prizes. That's $100,000 or $1 million or $500,000 or 250,000 that is now out of the player pool, out of the ecosystem. I mean, so that's not coming back, because why would that? If you won $200,000 last week, are you now going to play $200,000 this week? Hell no. So that's why these contests are getting a little bit smaller, but it's $500,000. It's rake free. So remember, if you have it deposited there, they're gonna charge you 3% to deposit. You're gonna have to sign up for a little subscription. If you want to play $1,000 for the month, that's $5.99. And if you want to give it a try, $1,000 first week free. Use the promo code AWESOMO. So if you wanted to play $100 this week, you could put in $100. That will cost you $3 to put it in, and then use the promo code AWESOMO, and you can play for free this week. If you use that same $100 over on the other sites, they're not going to charge you when you deposit, but they are going to take 16% when you go into the contests. Which is better, 3% or 16%? Yeah, 3%. So check this out. They haven't filled this contest completely yet. And I mean, my God, if Adam Scher really ship my money, the guy who does baseball and basketball, if he can win NFL, can't we all win the NFL?
Yeah, I know. He's like,
I say that tongue in cheek. You guys don't know. Yeah, you guys don't know how much work he's put into this. He's built out his spreadsheets. He's doing leverage. He's doing correlation. He's doing all sorts of stuff. And I'm making fun of him because I know how hard he's been working. He just isn't in front of the camera for these sports because he's got to deal with the other two daily sports that literally are essentially year round. So Adam's very, very savvy and a good player, but what he has done is taken the strategies that he has learned over the last year for baseball and basketball, and what Alex Awesemo is doing with the popularity projections, leverage plays, the chalk, the masses, where everybody is, pivots, all those fun words that we use, and he's figured out mathematically how to apply it to what he wants to do in the NFL. And he's had, so he did. I don't think he got second on Yahoo that first week, but he had a $50,000 week one. That's profit. And this last week he was over. He had the $100,000 win, but he had some other wins as well. He had a solid showing on Yahoo and the other one, but he's playing those because there's no rake or low rake, and there you go. So just throwing that out there. Wide receivers for Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Juju Smith-Schuster is surprised that people are double teaming him.
Yeah, that happens.
He shouldn't be.
Solid so far this year, 7, 7, and 8 targets, I think, in between 78 and 84 yards. He's clearly, I think, the top play on this slate. We haven't predicted for about a 30% chance of being the top scorer, as opposed to, and his ownership's about 15%. So that's intriguing. We've seen wide receivers in that captain spot or in that 1.5 spot on Fanduel do really well. The guy I'm targeting, if you want a sneaky play this week, maybe not sneaky, but good GPP play, is James Washington. He's getting a 90% snap count. He's 6th in the NFL in targeted air yards. His snap counts have gone up to every single week. He's cheap on FanDuel at $6,500. And then, of course, you got Deontay Johnson, who saw some time last week for Moncrief, who was inactive. Moncrief is back tonight. He's cheap. I don't know if he sees a starting role, if that injured finger was the cause for so many dropped balls and why he was made inactive, or if he's just in the doghouse. But at that price point, the fact that he's active makes me a little bit intrigued by throwing Dante Moncrief into some lineups tonight, crossing your fingers and hoping that maybe they weren't super happy with Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, that would be a definite way to go. I put out the notes, and I see a couple people in chat are like, well, why is this guy only going to talk about fantasy draft? Is he not going to talk about the analysis and the players? We have been. And by the way, I want to point out this companion piece that goes along with these shows. I got about 2,000 words there. I've broken down each team by position, and then below that, I've ranked everybody for you from my top 10 to my secondary plays to my lottery tickets. Now, again, this takes into account production, potential production, popularity, and pricing. So we've got that all there for you. Now we're trying to get nuance game within the game. We're trying to figure out if the wide receiver that came out as the number 2 wide receiver in training camp, Dante Moncrief, who was inactive last week because he has a freaking case of the drops, was it a finger issue or does he have the yips? We literally don't know. What more can we say about that for the analysis?
That's a good question. I've been looking on Twitter to see if any beat writers have any like late breaking information about his role tonight, but I can't really see anything coming up. So I'll let you know if I find anything on the site. But it seems kind of strange that he would just lose his ability to catch the ball, especially when he does have an injured finger. So I'm willing to roll the dice in some large GPPs. How about you?
I would have zero problem with it. Let me look and see. Did he make any of my lineups? Now, the answer is he actually did not. Now, I'm going with the Osmo projections here, but on a point per dollar base, unless you're going to set your randomness high, and I wasn't capping players because I don't like to do that, what'll happen is I'll just be completely missing players. So what I like to do is build about 80% of my lineups and then go in and say, okay, lock this. I want 5 with this guy in it, or I want 5 more of this guy at the captain, and then I can kind of get the percentages where I want them to be. Moncrief's someone I'm out on. I don't know where he is. I still think that Washington and Smith-Schuster are the better guys, along with Deontay Johnson. I've never been a huge Dante Moncrief fan. He had 6 years to put it together in Indianapolis and never really seemed to do it. So that's just my particular take on it. I actually do still like James Washington more than Deontay Johnson, but your pricing is gonna vary just a little bit there. That's influencing me on DraftKings. Plus, I'm still giving him the benefit of the doubt because he worked with his quarterback for quite some time in college, where they were very, very successful. Juju Smith-Schuster is on 64% of my lineups, but as far as the captain, he's only on the captain on 12%. Dalton's the captain on 26% of mine. Connor is 9%. Tyler Boyd is 8%. Joe Mixon is 4%. John Ross is 6%. So I'm really making a stand on Andy Dalton.
So it sounds like you're not getting to these Pittsburgh tight ends at all. Do you have any interest in Nick Vannett? I'm kind of off him just based on the fact that it's going to be really difficult to learn that playbook that quickly. They do have some other guys that might be stepping into that role, whether that's Zach Gentry, who's super cheap. I think there's one more tight end who I'm not actually going to roster, but may end up taking snaps away from him. And then you factor in that he's priced up at 4,200 on DraftKings. He's the bare min on Fanduel, but he's priced like he's a starting tight end given his relative production. He's never really had more than 290 yards in a season. So for me, he's a fade tonight because of all those things, which makes the Steelers receivers more appealing. Mm-hmm. And you want to take a punt flyer on one of these other tight ends. They lost Xavier Grimble as well this week, so it's kind of a mess right there in Pittsburgh, and that's why I think maybe Moncrief might see some more playing time if they're not comfortable with these tight ends yet.
So how you connected those dots is how I said to you, no, maybe Switzer could take some of these snaps. Now here's a guy returns both punts and kicks. Did not see the field for an offensive play last week. So he went week 1, 6 targets. I forget what his snap count was, but 6 targets from Roethlisberger to last week, did not see the field on offense, return punts and kicks. I don't know, but that's the kind of the line of thought I came to. You're right. Grimble's out. We know that Vance McDonald's shoulder injury. And little did we know they were trading for Nick Vannett. It was because they were going to put Grimble on the injured reserve list, so he can't come back. He's got or I can't remember if it's the 6-week one or the 8-week one or whatever, but he's got a calf injury. So you're looking at Gentry, who has played a grand total his rookie season of 10 snaps, and they all came last week. So does he really have more experience than Nick Vannett, who at least has been in the league for a while, played key roles in Seattle when he himself was able to stay healthy? We'll have to see. So that, I'm kind of like, I'm out on those guys. I believe I ended up with about 20% of Gentry, only because he was so cheap. I had to actually hold the lock button to get a Nick Vannett lineup, and just because I'm a Seahawks fan, I did that anyway. Why not? It's just a buck. Who cares? And then nobody else though. So that was kind of interesting. And I'm a huge Vance McDonald fan. Of course, Vance McDonald with Mason Rudolph, not quite what I was hoping for compared to last year. but I think that the tight ends, they're not exciting. None of them have game-breaking ability other than catching 2 touchdowns. So
Yeah.
I can't really get there, and there's no PPR behind it. Whereas when you have Vance McDonald, in theory, with Ben Roethlisberger, you got PPR for days.
Yeah, it's a good point on Switzer. I think that he's priced up a little bit, and that's kind of what makes me a little bit worrisome about rostering him. 2,405K on Fanduel, so not super interested in him given the total lack of offensive snaps. But it's funny because he was actually graded out really well for Osimo on week 1, and I was like, why is Ryan Switzer graded out so well? And he ended up having 6 receptions, 6 targets, 29 yards. So 9 points that day. If you're gonna grab Ryan Switzer, I'd recommend that you do it in conjunction with the Pittsburgh defense to possibly double dip. It was an on vogue DFS philosophy for a while, a couple of years back, and it never seemed to pay off. I think these were the days when Tavon Austin was returning kicks for the Rams. So that can work in a showdown slate though. If he's able to run one back and you get points for both those touchdowns, that'll win you the week for sure.
Yeah, YouTube chat is having themselves a time. Hines Ward for captain. I can't believe nobody's talking about Le'Veon Bell. I see Candy Grip a Paint Dripper, one of my favorite YouTube handles. He's back. I couldn't remember if he'd be back for football or basketball, but I recognize that name in there.
Always nice to see the people that have been off all summer and now playing baseball come back.
Yeah. All right. So we've got 10 minutes left. Official
we got
questions.
3 minutes left, bud. 3 minutes.
I thought it was 8:20.
Nope, 8:15.
Are you sure?
Well, that's when the contest lock, anyways. So.
Oh, well then let's do this real quick. Connor or Juju? For me, it would be Juju, but he would be my 3rd favorite player, and all 3 are on the Bengals before him.
Yep, Juju for me.
Let's see. How do you feel about? I lost it. They were asking more about cash builds. Would you play both quarterbacks? You can fit both quarterbacks in, and then 1 or 2 of the receivers if you really want to on both sides.
Yeah, and I think like pairing up those quarterbacks isn't as necessary. The quarterbacks have for the most part the safest floors though. So I always like to play quarterbacks in cash games as well. If you look at our odds of just being one of the 2 to top 6 players on Osimo's sheet, the quarterbacks rank 1 and 2 in this game, and they usually rank near the top. They're just a lot less variant and a lot higher floor, so they make for great captain picks.
All right, I'm double checking because I swear this is 8:20.
It might be, but for whatever reason, DK is locking in about 2 minutes here.
Oh shit, they are. That's weird because on my upload page it says 8:20 on both games, but you're right, they're locking it at 8:15. Oh, I bet. No, those are from the Thursday night games. Weird. Okay, my apologies. Yeah, so it's locking in 2 minutes. Hurry, hit that upload button. Don't dilly dally if you have not put in your file, because you're going to hear this with about 90 seconds left. Let's see. Mixon, could he smash tonight? What is Mixon's path for upside?
I'm not really seeing it. The snap share is not really there yet. I don't know if it's still his ankle injury. Gio Bernard's getting a lot of the work. It's about a 60-40 split. I think it was even less than that last week. So, I mean, I guess if they get up big, anything can happen, right? But I'm not super high on Mixon. We have negative game script. They're on the road. Bernard getting lots of work. So I'll take a pass at that price point.
All right. Tate or Johnson? Who the hell is? I don't know. Snell. What are your lower level lottery tickets? Real quick. Anybody of value?
Yeah, I think Moncrief is one. I think Deontay, what is his name? Damian Willis. If he were to maybe work his way back in, is possible. You never know if Alex Erickson can do something. He's not getting much play though, so those are probably the guys I'm looking to for the most part.
Yeah, Erickson would probably be my guy because at least he's going to get the ball thrown to him on offensive snaps. Can't say that about Switzer. Erickson returns kicks as well. And then I guess I'm going with Gentry just kind of by default. They have 2 tight ends. In theory, he knows the playbook. He has 10 total plays under his belt as a rookie. They were all last week. You can't count on it, but At least he was discounted.
All right, we are locked, my man.
We're locked. I wonder, is it the Sunday night game that starts at like 8:20?
Yeah,
Well,
they alternate them a little bit. I think it's a couple of them do start at 8:20.
yeah. Oh, see, some other people in chat are saying I could have sworn I saw a lock at 8:20 this morning. I thought so too. But in any event, there we are. We are.
Thursday is a 5:20 lock as well. If you do watch live before lock with myself, Alex, and Ben, I think we're going to be recording that show a little bit earlier. It'll be available to you earlier as well if you want to watch it. So it just gives you a little bit more time, and then you can just pop it on. But once you get home from work, if you feel like hearing what Alex and Ben have to say about this slate, should be a good Thursday.
Sounds like a plan. Reminder, we've got NHL starting up. That is going to be on Wednesday of the regular season. There are 4 games, and then they go right into the heavy, amazing Thursday slate, and then they follow it up with 4 games on Friday. NHL, never change. But then it's hockey night in Canada on Saturday, and you get more games than you can shake a stick at. Any shows you want to promote for hockey? Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Oh, that's nice of you. Yeah, so Jake and I are on every day at 4 o'clock Eastern time, 1 o'clock Pacific. And then we've also got a new hire this year, Slim Cliffy, Michael Clifford on Twitter, one of the best hockey DFS players out there. He's going to be coming in on Mondays and writing some power play articles for us as well. So we got Wassel, we got Bots writing our power plays and stacks. We'll have the premium line changes article every single day of the week. So yeah, stop on by, sign up for NHL. I think our Slack chat and our NHL is the best in the business. So there's no reason not to come on by and sign up.
Yeah, hey, it turned me into a profitable player. So there you go. It was learning the strategy, learning the lines, and learning the combinations. Very, very important. And it's amazing how many people still don't get that. So definitely check that out. The strategy show is very valuable, and it's something that, much like baseball and basketball, once you start to learn the names, tendencies, and playing styles, you'll be able to look at a slate and say, here are the 3 teams I want to focus on, and then you can listen for line changes and other stuff around that and still put out a competitive team. Yes, the prize pools are not gigantic, but they are going to be decent, at least until preseason basketball starts in 8 days. But there we are. Sorry, hockey. You're kind of the fourth major sport.
You get a little window.
Barely at all. But in any event, thank you everybody for joining. And definitely check us out. You can follow Nolan on Twitter at Nolan__. Yes, that's right. 2 underscores. Kelly. You can find me at EMACDFS. And then Osmo is at Osmo_just 1 COM. With that, gamers, good luck.